Hi guys, once again welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to discuss the remaining portion of food safety management systems. In the previous lecture we have discussed the food safety, what are the measures to be taken for food safety, then what are the various contaminations which are coming across the food processing, etc. And we have also discussed the 5 basic key elements which are required to ensure the food safety, and we discussed the 3 of the elements in detail, and the remaining 2 elements are hazard analysis and operational PRPS. First we will see hazard analysis or HACCP. HACCP, it can be a part of GMP and it is a systemic program. It is mainly a preventive approach to assure food safety. HACCP, it is recommended approach to control the possibility of allergen contaminations. It is addressing physical, chemical and biological hazards and as a means of prevention rather than finished product inspection. That is, HACCP, it is trying to prevent hazards. This approach enables to determine the key controls over processes and concentrate resources on activities that are critical to ensure safe food. HACCP, hazard, what is hazard? That is, what hazard can enter the product. Then where does these hazards come? Then how can we control or eliminate these hazards? These are the 3 main questions coming under this hazard analysis critical control point or HACCP. HACCP, it is giving the answers for these 3 questions. Then we can see 12 steps in HACCP. The first step is we have to assemble a HACCP team. Then we next is to describe a product and then identify the intended use of the product. Then the next step, a flow diagram or a flow chart must be constructed. And next is the confirmation of this flow diagram and all the potential hazards, it must be listed, and hazard analysis must be conducted, and we have to consider control measures also. Not only hazard analysis, but we have to consider some control measures or solutions for preventing these hazards. Determine the critical control points. Then we have to establish the critical limits for each critical control point. Then we must need a monitoring system for each critical control point. So then only we can do some corrections, or some corrective actions can be done only if it is monitored. Okay, so a good monitoring system must be there, and next we have to establish a corrective action and establish a verification procedure. That is, every corrective actions must be verified, and we must document and record all these verifications and corrections. So documentation and record keeping is very important in HACCP. Then HACCP team, first step in HACCP is we have to form a HACCP team. So this HACCP team, it must contain experts from various areas, from production, shipping, quality assurance, sanitation, maintenance and sales. Then food safety during post-harvest period. Worker hygiene is very important. That is, the workers, their hands must be clean. If there is any sick workers, they must be prohibited. Then packing house. Keep the packing house or the store or godowns, they must be very clean. Proper sanitary system must be there. That is, washing, rinsing, disinfection, it must be done periodically with suitable disinfectants. And we must also ensure that the water used for washing and rinsing, it must be free of germs. Then cooling and cold storage. This cold storage should be fumigated at regular intervals using formalin or any other chemicals can be used to prevent contamination which is generated from such places, making the product unsafe for human consumption. Then transport of products from farm to market. That is, we have to ensure that the vehicles which are used for transportation, they must be free of contamination. They must be clean and sanitary care must be taken. Avoid dirty and contaminated vehicles, and if it is required, we must disinfect the vehicles before using them for transporting the goods. Then producers level grading and sorting. Ensure proper cleanliness of the product by removing foreign matter and undesirable substances. We have to sort out the producers. They must sort out the damaged ones. Then segregate them on the basis of shape, size, color, weight and the variety. Then avoid any adulterant or use of coloring matter, and this will introduce a uniformity in the product. and it will also check the further spread of infections. And if there is any problem, that is such samples must be sent to laboratory for analysis and testing. Packaging. The product should be packed in clean and contamination-free packing material. Wherever necessary, use moisture-proofing system or bags with polythene lining. The package should bear all the needed informations. For example, it must have the name of the commodity, place of origin, year of harvest, weight, variety and grade. Everything must be on the package. Then customer hygiene or consumer hygiene is very important. The consumer should adopt all possible hygiene measures to avoid himself becoming a cause of health problem. Effective post-harvest strategies should be followed for prevention of contamination. The product, once contaminated, cannot be sanitized completely. Therefore, the prevention is always better. Fresh agricultural commodities are marketed in domestic as well as export markets, and the complex food marketing system, it is potentially increasing the exposure of more consumers to different types of microorganisms. So consumer hygiene is very important. Then food safety standards. It is a generic food safety management standard, that is ISO. ISO, it can ensure the safety of its food products. It is integrated with Codex Alimentarius Commission, then the 7 principles of HACCP, and dynamically combine it with PRPS, and it is necessary to control and reduce any food safety hazards. Then what is EXIM policy? EXIM policy means export-import policy. It is mainly regulating the international trade in India. EXIM policy is also known as, or otherwise known as, foreign trade policy. It contains a set of rules and regulations regarding import and export. The Government of India, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, announces this policy every 5 years, and it is updated every year on the 31st of March. Modifications, improvements and new schemes are effective from 1st April of every year. And EXIM policy, a set of guidelines and instructions are established by the Directorate General of Foreign Trade. Then this mainly related to import and export of goods in India. Then this foreign trade policy of India, it is regulated by Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act, which is passed in 1992. Then DGFT, that is Directorate General of Foreign Trade, it is the main governing body, and the main objective of this act is to provide the development and regulation of foreign trade by facilitating imports and augmenting exports from India. Then this act was the Foreign Trade Act. Before that, there was another act known as Imports and Exports Act in 1947, and this act was replaced by this Foreign Trade Act. Objectives of the EXIM policy. EXIM policy, it is having two aspects, that is the import policy and export policy. Import policy, it is concerned with the regulations and managements of imports, and export policy, it is concerned with export. The main objective is to promote exports to the maximum extent. It should be promoted so that the economy of country is not affected. And to derive maximum benefits from expanding global market opportunities, to stimulate sustained economic growth, that is by providing access to essential raw materials, consumables and capital goods, and also to enhance strength, efficiency of Indian agriculture, industry and services, thereby improving their competition. So the competition, it will result in the improvement of quality or increases the quality, to generate new employment, to encourage the attainment of internationally accepted standards of quality, and also to provide quality consumer products at reasonable prices. These are the main objectives of EXIM policy. Then EXIM policy 1992-1997, that is, in order to liberalize imports and boost export, the Government of India for the first time introduced the Indian EXIM policy on April 1st, 1992, and this is to bring stability and continuity, and the export-import policy was made for the duration of 5 years. Then in 1997-2002, a new export-import policy was needed, and for the smooth functioning of the Indian export-import trade. Hence, the Government of India introduced a new EXIM policy for the year 1997-2002. And this policy has further simplified, that is, the procedures are reduced, that is, the number of documents that should be provided or required for export is reduced by half. Import has been further liberalized. Better efforts have been made to promote Indian exports in international trade. Then highlights of this 1997-2002 policy is that the period is valid for 5 years instead of 3 years. It is effective from 1st April 1997 to 31st March 2002. A very important feature or the remarkable feature of the policy is that liberalization. All goods except those coming under negative list may be freely imported or exported. Imports liberalization was done, that is, out of 542 items from the restricted list, they are removed from the restricted list, and 150 items they are transferred to special import license list, and 392 items have been transferred to open general license list. Then the export promotion highlights of the EXIM policy, that is export promotion capital goods scheme and also duty entitlement passbook scheme. These are the two schemes, or these are the two highlights of EXIM policy. The first one is that the duty on imported capital goods under this scheme has been reduced from 15 to 10%. And also the period for export has also extended from 12 months to 18 months. So these are some benefits of the scheme. A further extension for 6 months can be given on payment. So that is the benefit of this export promotion capital goods scheme. Then another scheme is duty entitlement passbook scheme. That is, under this scheme the exporter may apply for credit, and such credits can be used or utilized for import of raw materials, intermediate components, packaging materials, etc. Then impact of EXIM policy 1997-2002. Globalization of Indian economy is the main impact, and to derive maximum benefits from expanding global market opportunities. Impact on the Indian industry. Reform measures have been introduced in order to boost India's industrial growth and also to generate employment opportunities. It is the main highlight, that is, employment opportunities are generated in non-agricultural sector. Impact on agriculture, that is, many encouraging steps have been taken in order to give a boost to Indian agricultural sector, and also we can see the policy successfully fulfills one of the India's long-term objective, that is self-reliance. So the policy has achieved this by encouraging domestic sourcing of raw materials in order to build up a strong domestic production base. EXIM policy 2009-2014, the foreign trade policy. It come into force with effect from 27th August 2009 and shall remain up to 31st March 2014. Then Board of Trade of EXIM policy 2004-2009 to advise government on policy measures for preparation and implementation of short-term and long-term plans for increasing exports, then to review the export performance of various sectors, that is, to identify any constraints and also to suggest some solutions, then to examine existing institutional framework for imports and exports and to suggest some practical measures for achieving the said objectives. Then introduction to export documentation and procedures. Export documentation includes all the important records of the international transactions. Documents are the reflections of agreements between seller, buyer and the third party or regulatory agencies. Problems with documentation can lead to delay in shipment, penalties, unwanted storage cost, etc. Then product specific documentation, it is very essential, and to certify their safety, purity in accordance with US or foreign government regulations. That is, the Foreign Agricultural Service has a portal to access a variety of regulatory sites for food products. These include shippers export declaration, export permits for alcoholic beverages, then for red meat and poultry, national organic programs, then food and drug administration, etc. That's all about food safety management systems. Hope you understand the session. Thank you.